In this video, we will explore the power of stories in communication and how they act as a bridge to connect people. Stories are a fundamental pillar in communication. Extensive studies show that information retention is only 22% when presented as data alone, but when a narrative with a thread is included, that retention increases to 65%. Not only for retention, but also for the empathy and connection they generate. Even though our lives are very different, stories allow us to convey, communicate, understand, and most importantly, connect. What we have in common are the emotions: sadness, euphoria. Stories are the bridge to empathize, persuade, and connect. Mastering the skill of storytelling also means learning how to capture attention and maintain focus. It's about letting yourself be enveloped and being heard. What you need to create is a bank of stories, a reserve of powerful stories, your own or others, that you can reread and refresh when you need them. Each story has characters, attributes, and a structure that you can classify. Develop your emotional awareness, add a romantic touch to life, adopt the perspective of a poet, the consciousness of a writer, or the vision of a photographer. Tell with artistry everything that happens in your life, what you've lived, and what will come. Journeys, places, sports, experiences, work, relationships, friendships. Everything is a story waiting to be told. This writer's awareness turns everything into something relatable. Everything is in the technique. It's about having the director's eye, choosing the right perspective, whether from the point of view of a father, mother, helpless child, or anyone else. How did it happen? Tell me like those wonderful years. Find stories in the everyday. A funny mistake, a slip-up, a pose. All of this tells us something about the kind of life we live. Associate images, pictures with stories. Collaborate with friends, shared stories. Let's begin by exploring the power of stories and how they act as a gateway to connection between people. Let's remember, how did our ancestors entertain themselves? The answer lies in stories. They gathered around the fire, creating a space to share tales, experiences, and knowledge. That fire was not only a source of warmth, but also of unity. Over time, the need to tell and listen to stories evolved. Families stopped gathering around the fire to do so in front of the radio, then the television. And today, in the digital age, we are surrounded by phones and social media, where stories dominate the way we connect and share moments. Stories are still the bridge that unites us, only now they have new forms and platforms. Stories, like music, deeply impact our brain by activating multiple sensory organs, imagination and memory, thanks to mirror neurons which facilitate empathy and connection. When we listen to or tell stories, we all simulate the experience in our minds, creating a shared scenario. This awakens shared emotions thanks to key neurotransmitters and hormones. Dopamine, associated with reward, is activated by the ups and downs of the plot, where obstacles and rewards maintain the tension. Oxytocin, linked to connection and empathy, is released when characters connect, whether in situations of love or conflict. Fun or entertaining stories, with a friendly and relaxed tone, release endorphins, creating feelings of well-being and creativity. Finally, cortisol, the stress neurotransmitter, is activated by suspense and tension, keeping the audience focused and alert through dramatic pauses, changes in speed or sharpness in the narrative. We achieve this with the ups and downs, obstacles, fear, anxiety. Will they overcome it? Will they make it? Suspense, dramatic pauses, silences, eye contact, increasing speed, sharpness. Let's now walk through the structure of a good story, the kind that grabs you from the very first second and doesn't let go until the end. For a story to truly captivate, we need some key ingredients: well-defined characters, sometimes a common enemy, a key incident, the climax, and of course the resolution. First, well-defined characters. Here, distant characters like business people or presidents are superficially known, but have no direct connection to you or me. The key is to find a way to connect, showing that the problem they face is the same as ours, that they are like us because they go through similar situations. Then, there are the close characters, those who are part of our daily lives, like the mother, the neighbor, or the close friend. Even though they may not be famous, the way we describe them makes them relatable and real to the audience. If it proceeds, the feature of the common enemy is typical. This is the true engine of tension. It's common in the media. Whether we're talking about a virus, a war, a person, a political system, or even something as global as climate change, the enemy shapes the struggle, the obstacle against which the characters must fight. Even something like politics, though full of manipulation, can be a story told with those dirty hands that give us tension. Clearly define the target problem, that is, what's at stake for the audience. Third, the incident. This is the key point of the story, the event that makes everything change. Without that twist, there is no story to tell. Next comes the climax, the peak of the story, where the tension is at its highest level. This is where everything goes up and down, obstacles, tough decisions, moments of great tension. It's the point before the resolution, where uncertainty keeps us glued to the screen. And finally, the resolution. This is the moment when everything comes to a close, but for it to be impactful, it must be dramatic. It needs to be told with conviction, passion, and emotion so that the audience can feel what the character is feeling. Putting yourself in the character's shoes is key to creating that impact that will leave a lasting impression. Stories don't always have to be epic or grand. Even the small everyday stories can have great power. Who hasn't experienced something funny or curious at an airport, at university, or on a trip? It's those small moments, those little poses of daily life that connect us. So, the next time you tell a story, don't underestimate the common, because sometimes in the ordinary we find the most powerful stories. I propose this exercise. Create your own story and underline the parts where you think different hormones and neurotransmitters are released. Think of moments of suspense, cortisol, emotional connection, oxytocin, joy or laughter, endorphins, and the expectation of reward, dopamine. As you do this, observe how the character's emotions might activate different areas of the brain. Share your story, and let's see how narratives impact our emotions and biology. Let's now look at the perfect structure for creating impactful stories. The essential parts are the beginning and the end. It's much easier to remember a story with a narrative thread than with isolated facts. Persuading and convincing starts there. The Freytag curve is key to maintaining narrative tension, as dopamine is released when hope rises and falls throughout the story. Writing experts like Shakespeare follow this structure. Conflict with a common enemy, climax with deep tension, decreasing action, and finally, denouement and resolution. And a conclusion with a moral lesson is essential. Something like, "He who perseveres succeeds" helps wrap up the story with a meaningful takeaway. A strong ending not only resolves the plot, but also imparts a valuable lesson or insight that resonates with the audience, leaving them with something to reflect on. It reinforces the journey the characters have gone through and ties everything together, giving the story a sense of purpose and closure. Techniques to hook the audience include making them imagine specific memorable moments. Do you remember that moment when you were in love and shared your first kiss with passion? Make them relive it. Create impact. And use emotional hooks, touching on deep topics. For example, imagine a chef who doesn't just serve meals, but actually saves lives every day. By offering his customers healthy, nutritious dishes, he's not only satisfying hunger, he's preventing them from making the unhealthy choice of junk food. What if the food you ate could be the difference between a healthy life and a life at risk? This chef is doing more than cooking. He's on a mission to change lives, one plate at a time. Wake up curiosity with intriguing phrases like, "Today, I'd like to share the biggest mistake of my career." Or, "Did you know I was a drug smuggler for one day? It turns out, blah, blah, blah." Use a counterintuitive point of view, creating dilemmas that make people reflect, like taking the myth that breakfast is the most important meal of the day and saying something like, "Did you know that in reality, it's the least important?" And finally, tell personal stories that connect. No need for grand tales, just everyday situations that touch on emotions. I propose this exercise. Create a personal story and divide it into 5 sections. Start with an introduction where you present the context, then describe the place where the story takes place. Continue with the incident, the event that triggers everything. Then move to the climax, the moment of greatest tension or emotion. Follow with the resolution, how the situation is solved, and finish with the morale, the lesson or conclusion. This exercise will help you structure your stories in a clear and effective way. And let's see how to maintain the magic. Techniques to retain your audience's attention. Giving a speech without knowing your audience is like writing a love letter to whom it may concern, as Maxwell would say. Researching your audience is key, because it's not just about telling something interesting, but something relevant to them. The true power of a story lies not only in how it's told, but in how it resonates with the audience. Ask yourself, is it relevant to them? Does it connect to something in their life? It's essential to adapt to their context, understand their pain points and satisfactions. To do this, we must analyze their age, profession, experience, the formal or informal context, and their interests and values. Once we know the audience, we can adjust the level of detail, from the professional to the more informal or entertaining. Think about how a story can address their pain points, like shyness, and how to gain charisma and confidence, or the fear of public speaking and how to control it. The key is to offer them something that connects in a useful, relevant, and practical way. Relevance is the principle that keeps attention. People only focus on what interests them or offers them something. Thus, the purpose of our story should focus on awakening their emotions, connecting with their fears, passions, and ambitions. For a narrative to be memorable, it must awaken emotions. As Maya Angelou said, people will not remember what you told them, but they will remember how you made them feel. Without emotion, the story loses its meaning. The goal is to connect emotionally, to create an emotional roller coaster where everyone who hears the story feels what is happening. Great scientists claim that 80% of the impact of a story comes from emotions and only 20% from the content. To achieve this impact, use your voice, with control over tone and speed, and your body language to give strength to the narration. Also, don't forget to immerse your audience in the story using sensory imagery. Let them feel, see, hear, smell, and touch what you're describing. That aroma of coffee, jazz, and music, or the caress of the heat in Madrid during the summer, the smell of freshly cut grass, etc. Use metaphors like life being a cruise that must be enjoyed, and that goals and objectives only set the direction, acting as a lighthouse, a guide, or a compass. But we must live in the present, enjoying the now, without the pressure of meeting goals. Use rhetorical questions without expecting an answer, with the purpose of activating the internal dialogue of others. But leave a moment, an important silence, to give the other person time. Imagine. What would you have done in their place? And add drama, act, and above all, connect with vulnerable characters that the audience can identify with, understand their frustrations and feel part of the story. Create total, absolute immersion. Visualize every detail so they can feel it and live it, making your narrative a unique and unforgettable experience. And again, recreate in detail so they can visualize it, feel it. The caress of Madrid's heat in summer, the aroma of coffee and jazz music. And this is today's proposal. Use stories to connect and create memorable moments. Build your bank of stories to tell and retell in your conversations, creating magical and unforgettable moments of connection. Please, if you liked this content, subscribe, share, and leave a like on this video to support it. In another video, we will explore how stories are used not only in persuasion, but also in manipulation. Stories possess a subliminal power to influence our thoughts, decisions, and actions. By understanding how these techniques are employed, we can better protect ourselves from being manipulated. Recognizing the subtle ways in which stories shape our beliefs and perceptions is essential for making informed, independent choices. Knowing these techniques is crucial to avoid being swayed by narratives that may not have our best interests at heart. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please kindly leave a like. I'll see you in the next one.